push it. Don't push it, I'll give you a war you won't believe.
You think you know the man behind the bandana, but these shocking truths about First Blood will change how you see Rambo forever.
Yeah! Bullseye!
Fact 1. When First Blood was first adapted from David Morrell's novel, the ending was much darker. In the book, Rambo dies in a standoff with Sheriff Teasel. The first screenplay stayed true to that. They actually filmed this ending, where Rambo convinces Colonel Trautman to shoot him. Sylvester Stallone pushed hard to change it. He argued that Rambo's death would rob the character of any chance for redemption. Stallone believed Rambo could become a symbol for veterans' struggles if he survived. The studio was torn, but agreed to keep him alive after test audiences responded badly to the suicide ending. That one change paved the way for the sequels. If Rambo had died in 1982, we'd never have First Blood Part 2, Rambo 3, or the later reboots. The deleted scene still exists and appears on special editions. Richard Crenna, who played Trautman, said filming the original ending was heartbreaking. It showed how broken and hopeless Rambo really was. But Stallone's gut feeling won out. He said that letting Rambo live gave him a sliver of hope and a voice for real veterans. Fans now debate which ending is more powerful, but the one they released turned Rambo into a legend, not just a tragic anti-hero. Sometimes rewriting the last 5 minutes changes movie history forever.
Drive.
Fact 2. When Stallone signed on, the First Blood script was already notorious in Hollywood. Dozens of drafts had floated around for years. Stallone thought it was way too talky and made Rambo look like a psychopath. He took a red pen to the entire thing. He cut half of Rambo's dialogue, choosing to let the character's silence speak louder than words. He added more moments showing Rambo's trauma instead of just his violence. The result made Rambo more sympathetic, a misunderstood vet, not a cold-blooded killer. Stallone also toned down scenes that painted cops as cartoon villains. He wanted the conflict to feel real, not like a comic book. He kept the stunts raw and the story focused. Director Ted Kotcheff supported Stallone's edits, even though the studio panicked. Executives thought they'd lose the tough guy audience if Rambo didn't talk more. Stallone argued that action would speak louder than speeches, and he was right. The stripped-down version made Rambo an icon. The rewrites also created the film's most famous scenes, like Rambo stitching his own arm. Those details came straight from Stallone's vision. His changes turned an over-the-top script into a tight, tense survival story. And they proved that sometimes less really is more. Without Stallone's pen, Rambo might have been just another generic 80s action flick. Fact 3.
In Vietnam, you can bet that Rambo and I got pretty confused. We had orders. When in doubt, kill.
Before Richard Crenna stepped in as Colonel Trautman, the role belonged to Hollywood royalty. Kirk Douglas was cast and even showed up on set. Douglas clashed with Stallone and director Ted Kotcheff over the ending. He wanted the film to stick to the novel's tragic finale where Rambo dies. Douglas threatened to quit if they changed it. He also wanted more lines and an expanded role for Trautman. Stallone refused, saying the story needed to stay focused on Rambo. Douglas walked away just days before filming Trautman's scenes. Producers scrambled to replace him. Richard Crenna was cast at the last minute. He flew in, learned his lines overnight, and started shooting immediately. Crenna's calm authority helped balance Stallone's intensity. Ironically, fans now can't imagine anyone else as Trautman. Kirk Douglas later admitted he regretted walking away. He said he underestimated how big the film would become. Crenna and Stallone went on to build an on-screen bond that anchored 3 movies. That last-minute switch changed the tone of the whole film. It gave Rambo the father figure the story needed, and it showed that sometimes losing a legend can make room for a perfect fit. Fact 4. Hope, British Columbia, became the fictional town of Hope, Washington, for First Blood. The real locals were divided about hosting the production. Some thought the violent story would ruin their image. Others worried about Stallone's reputation as a Hollywood bad boy. Businesses closed their doors to the crew in protest. But when the film crew brought in money and jobs, attitudes changed. Still, some locals tried to shut down the shoot. One store refused to let them film inside, forcing a major scene rewrite. Stallone later said the town's chilly vibe helped him get into character. He felt like an outsider, just like Rambo did in the story. Local police worked security during tense protest days. Extras were recruited straight from the town, and some even turned up at the premiere years later. Hope now fully embraces its Rambo legacy. There's even a big wooden Rambo statue in town. Die-hard fans visit every year for walking tours of the filming locations. The same bridges and woods still look just like they did in 1982. Locals now admit they had no idea the movie would become a cult classic. Hope, BC, went from reluctant host to Rambo's forever home. Sometimes the story off-screen mirrors the one on it, all about outsiders fighting to survive. Fact 5. Sylvester Stallone didn't just act tough. He risked real injury to bring Rambo to life. He did most of his own stunts, even when the crew begged him not to. One of the most famous stunts was when Rambo jumps off a cliff and crashes through trees. Stallone actually made that terrifying drop himself, with just a thin harness for safety. He cracked a rib when he hit the branches and filming had to pause for a day. He also ran barefoot through rough terrain and freezing temperatures. During the motorcycle chase, Stallone insisted on driving without a helmet for realism. The crew was constantly on edge, fearing an accident would halt production. Stallone said the physical pain helped him tap into Rambo's desperation. It reminded him of the real-life toughness of Vietnam vets he met while researching the role. Stunt doubles were on standby but rarely used. In the cave scenes, Stallone crawled through real mud and freezing streams. He refused to wear a wetsuit under his clothes despite the icy water. He wanted every shiver and grimace to be genuine. The director later said Stallone's commitment was borderline reckless, but made the film feel raw. Insurance companies were not pleased but didn't dare stop him. His bruises and cuts you see on screen? Most were real. That authenticity is part of why the movie feels so visceral today. It showed that action heroes didn't need to be invincible robots. Rambo bled, ached, and kept fighting. Just like the man who played him. That real grit helped First Blood stand out from every other action flick of its time. Fact 6.
Right on top of them. We're gonna form a skirmish 50 feet apart. And keep moving. There's no way out of here except through us.
David Morrell, who wrote the original First Blood novel, had strong opinions on the film adaptation. In his book, Rambo is far more unstable and tragic. He's pushed past the point of no return, ending with his death. When Morrell heard Stallone wanted to change the ending, he was skeptical. He worried that a surviving Rambo would become a cartoonish killing machine. But after seeing the final cut, Morrell admitted he was impressed. He praised Stallone's take as more sympathetic and human than his own. Morrell said Stallone's Rambo showed how society can fail its veterans. He liked that the film made audiences feel for Rambo instead of just fearing him. The author was also amazed by how much Stallone physically embodied the character. Morrell called him Rambo incarnate. Despite loving the film, Morrell later criticized the sequels for turning Rambo into an unstoppable war machine. He said the original message about veterans got buried under explosions and body counts. He remained proud that First Blood sparked conversations about PTSD and neglect. Morrell even appeared in cameos for some sequels. He maintained a warm friendship with Stallone, despite their creative differences. The author's mixed feelings reveal a deeper side to the Rambo legacy. Behind the bullets is a message about how heroes can be broken, and sometimes a movie can outgrow its own source material in unexpected ways. Fact 7. Sheriff Will Teasel, played by Brian Dennehy, wasn't just a one-note villain. Dennehy took the role seriously and prepared like it was a dramatic stage part. He rode along with real sheriffs in small Pacific Northwest towns. He studied how they interacted with drifters and troublemakers. Dennehy said Teasel didn't see himself as evil, just doing his job as he understood it. In his mind, Teasel was protecting his town's fragile peace. Dennehy's performance added layers that make the conflict more believable. He avoided playing Teasel as cartoonish or purely corrupt. His subtle arrogance made Teasel feel all too real. Dennehy improvised some lines to show Teasel's short fuse. On set, he and Stallone agreed to push each other physically in fight scenes. Dennehy ended up with a cracked rib after one on-screen scuffle. He joked that it made him respect small-town cops even more. His commitment helped elevate what could have been a typical movie sheriff. It turned Teasel into a tragic figure, a man who picked the wrong fight. Without Dennehy's depth, Rambo's plight might not feel so justified. That grounded rivalry makes First Blood more than just explosions and chases. It's about two broken men who can't stand down. That's why Teasel remains one of the best small-town antagonists in action history. Fact 8. Rambo's massive survival knife is almost as famous as he is. For First Blood, Stallone wanted a blade that felt real. Functional, not just flashy. He hired master knife maker Jimmy Lyle to design it from scratch. Lyle crafted a 14-inch knife with a sawback spine and a hollow handle for survival gear. The knife contained fishing hooks, matches, and a compass, just like real survival kits. It was heavy enough to chop through branches and durable enough for close combat. On screen, the knife became a symbol of Rambo's training and ingenuity. Fans were so obsessed with it that they flooded Lyle with orders after the film's release. It started a whole market for Rambo knives that still thrives today. The prop department made multiple versions for different scenes. One was extra sharp for close-ups of Rambo cutting himself free. Another was rubber for fight scenes to protect Stallone and the stunt team. Stallone said he kept the hero knife as a trophy after shooting Wrapped. He once joked it was the only weapon he trusted more than his fists. The knife even appeared in sequel posters as an icon in its own right. Collectors now pay thousands for authentic Jimmy Lyle Rambo knives. The design influenced survival knives for decades afterward. Some survival schools still reference its features in training. That blade wasn't just a prop. It was an extension of Rambo's character. It reminded audiences that survival is about skill, not brute force alone. Fact 9. Filming First Blood in British Columbia's wilderness wasn't easy. The weather was brutal, with freezing rain and unpredictable snow. Stallone called the forest beautiful and miserable at the same time. Cast and crew battled hypothermia and constant mud. Camera equipment froze overnight, halting shoots for hours. Scenes had to be reshot when rivers rose and wiped out props. The iconic waterfall escape scene was filmed at a real river gorge. Stunt coordinators struggled to keep actors safe on slippery rocks. Stallone did his own river stunts, risking pneumonia. He later joked that he spent more time wet and cold than acting. Local wildlife even caused chaos. Bears were spotted near the set multiple times. Crew members carried noisemakers to scare them off. The production fell behind schedule, pushing everyone to exhaustion. At one point, the studio considered moving the shoot indoors. Stallone refused, saying Rambo's ordeal needed to feel real. The remote location ultimately paid off on screen. Those misty forests became part of the film's haunting atmosphere. They turned Rambo's flight into a primal survival story. Fans now visit Hope, BC, just to see the rivers and woods. The struggle to film there mirrored Rambo's fight to stay alive. Sometimes the worst conditions create the most unforgettable movie moments. Fact 10. Stallone wanted his portrayal of John Rambo to honor real Special Forces veterans. He reached out to former Green Berets to learn authentic survival tactics. These veterans taught him how to build shelter with minimal tools. They showed him how to set traps and navigate forests under pressure. The sewing scene where Rambo stitches his arm came from real first aid training. Stallone spent hours practicing knot tying, camouflage, and silent movement. The trainers explained how Vietnam veterans improvised with whatever they had. This hands-on training made Rambo feel grounded in reality. Stallone used real combat stories as inspiration for Rambo's haunted demeanor. The filmmakers avoided Hollywood cliches, favoring real-world techniques. Even the way Rambo handles his knife was based on Special Forces instruction. Some advisors were Vietnam vets who said Rambo reminded them of real soldiers they knew. They praised the film for showing the mental scars that soldiers brought home. Stallone was deeply affected by their stories and stayed in touch with some of them. He said that training gave him a sense of responsibility to get it right. That authenticity made First Blood stand out from mindless shoot-'em-ups. It helped the film spark conversations about how America treated its veterans. To this day, real survival instructors use Rambo scenes as teaching examples. It's a reminder that the man-ram behind the myth was built on real grit and sacrifice. And that's what keeps Rambo's legacy alive decades later. Bonus fact: Rambo's survival knife in First Blood wasn't just a prop. It sparked a real-life obsession. Before the film, there wasn't much demand for oversized tactical survival knives. But once audiences saw John Rambo wield that massive blade, they had to have one too. Jimmy Lyle, the custom knife maker behind the design, became a legend overnight. His original knife featured a sawback spine and a hollow handle with a survival kit and compass. After the movie's release, Lyle's shop got so many orders he couldn't keep up. Stores everywhere began selling replica Rambo knives, both cheap and high-end. This surge kicked off the modern survival knife trend still seen today. People who'd never camped a day in their lives bought one, just in case. Some outdoor schools even used the knife in ads to sell survival courses. Kids begged for toy versions until parents took them away. Collectors now pay thousands for original Jimmy Lyle Rambo knives. Some keep them in glass cases like museum pieces. Even real military survival knives were redesigned to look more Rambo-esque. The Craze inspired countless knockoffs in other movies and TV shows. Stallone later said he never imagined a blade would become a pop culture icon. The knife's fame outgrew the film. It became a symbol of grit and readiness. Its unique design still influences modern tactical gear. Whole YouTube channels are dedicated to testing Rambo knives, all from one piece of steel, forged for a lone soldier in the woods. Sometimes the sharpest part of a legend is the tool he carries, and Rambo's knife cut its way straight into history.